Hello everyone. My name is Mary Apollo. I'm a journalist. I'm doing a series about women who are serving humanity and women who are helping to make the world a better place. As we know, we have a lot of qualified and inspired women in our society, in our community, but they haven't been able uh, they didn't give them a chance to perform or to send their voices out there. So through this platform, I'm trying to bring every day a different woman that can come out and share her experience and share others. And please follow me on my YouTube channel and subscribe. Today we have a special guest who is here with us. Her name is Isabelle Vladoiu. She's the founder of the US of Diplomacy and Human Rights. She's also an activist and she works in Youth for Human Rights. And she's a writer, she's a public speaker. She's recognized for her outstanding professional work experience in leadership organizations such as the International Union of Bilateral Chambers of Commerce Industry and the United for Human Rights, Washington, D.C. This is the Youth for Human Rights, Washington, D.C. So welcome, Isabelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary, for the invitation. I'm very excited to get to talk a bit about my work or my new projects here. So let's dig into. Ask me what you have me here.
I know that you have studied human rights and you have all this experience in 10 years of experience in human rights. And then you have just founded your new organization, Diplomacy and Human Rights. So what inspired you to go to diplomacy, from human rights to diplomacy?
Yes, it's true. I recently founded the U.S. Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights. My background, education is in both fields. So I do have my specialty in human rights, and I've been working for many years now with different human rights or international organizations, as you mentioned, a few of them. And at the same time, diplomacy has always been very close to my heart. I've done also diplomatic studies and position as a woman in the International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and working with the International Chamber for the past 10 years. I was very active in the field of NGO diplomacy, so non-governmental diplomacy. And because of that, I got to do a lot of diplomatic events with the diplomatic corps here in Washington, D.C., as well as I organized these events myself on behalf of the International Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, I've attended other events with diplomats, and I've been doing many articles in the field of diplomacy, as well as in the field of human rights. So for me, opening and what inspired me to do that, I've done a lot of research, and I know I have friends in the academia, as well as like international experts in these two fields. So I had to basically open a forum, a think tank, if you want to call it like that, to be able to share the latest research in the fields of human rights and diplomacy, to bring up the issues and the concerns that are happening nowadays with those two subjects. And at the same time, the institute has an educational role. So basically what we want to create with the institute is to be able to enhance people's understanding on diplomacy and human rights and raise awareness on these issues.
Okay, so that's great. I went through the course of diplomacy, protocol, and etiquette. I just want to know more about the curriculum. What is the curriculum of this course, and what's your audience target for it?
Definitely. So I recently did a partnership with a school in New York, Manhattan Studies, who agreed to to host my course, if you can call it like this. It is a course in diplomatic protocol and etiquette, and what that means is in the field of international courtesy. So basically, what we go over in the course is necessary skills that you need not only as a diplomat or a protocol officer if you are already working in the field, but also as an individual, for example in the business world, or even in the PR for PR professionals, because we go over how to address an ambassador, how do you introduce another person, how do you write a letter of invitation to a high level official, how do you address the president of the country, and or other issues like different, like how do you address the senator, and at the same time how you act in the society in a diplomatic way, meaning how do you exchange, what's the art of exchanging business cards, what do you do after you get a business card, what do you do with the card, like you like throw it away, you put it in your pocket, you're supposed to read it. There are other, like right now in times like this, I know we don't shake hands anymore, but when should we shake hands, and when can we kiss hands? There are countries who are using this and it's culturally appropriate. So in this course, I basically go over each of these topics. Plus, I have a special segment on table and dining etiquette for formal events where we discuss where exactly should officials sit at the table. You have specific rules for that. And in a diplomatic world or even an official world, you cannot break protocol because your credibility will be destroyed. And to answer specific to your question, the course is not addressed, I mentioned already, only to diplomats and civil servants who are active in the field. It's also addressing to, for example, students or graduates of international relations who wish to add these important skills to their curriculum because their university doesn't cover this topic. So my students for this course, I do have students all around the world, from Dubai to Washington DC and Hong Kong, who wish to study this topic that is very, very needed nowadays, when you have so much competition that you have to differentiate yourself from competition. Whether you are an individual who is trying to apply for a job and wants to have the career you deserve, or you are a corporate, a company, and you need to know, like, how do you present yourself? For example, you go in cases like you are a company, you have a foreign delegation, you go with many other employees to a different country, and then each of your employees are presenting a different type of business card, although all of you are part of the same organization. That will be one of the rules that will break protocol, and it's not an appropriate business etiquette. So we go over all of this in the course basically, and that's why it's appropriate to basically anyone who needs and wants to achieve the skills so that they can boost their credibility and have the audience listen to what they say. As a professional myself, I want the people that surround me to be able to understand me very well, and at the same time to give them the opportunity to know more about them, but I have to convince them and allow them to let me speak more about me. And diplomacy is one of the way how you can achieve that easy.
Okay, so this is taking me to an important question. As you are human rights, how do you think human rights connected to diplomacy?
Wow, that's a very, very good question, actually. As an international specialist in human rights law and a practitioner in NGO diplomacy for 10 years now, I've seen these two concepts intertwined, very often. And there is also the concept of diplomacy of human rights as a whole. And the idea behind that is how can countries, and especially emerging powers, deal with human rights in their foreign policies? And there are numerous ways in which human rights can be promoted in a state's foreign policy, and probably the most obvious one is to promote and raise concerns about human rights issues as a key part in their bilateral agreements or relationships, and at the same time, diplomacy aimed at strengthening international legal rules in the field of human rights. So that's what you do when you want to recognize, for example, new types of human rights, like the right to peace. If we look at all the international agreements in the area of human rights, when they were drafted, even the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, when they were drafted, they brought together the specialists and diplomats, like various leaders, presidents of countries, prime ministers, coming together through negotiations and through talks and through the art of diplomacy, coming and drafting this convention. So that's why I see them very intertwined, and that's why you have diplomacy as a field itself, you have human rights as a field itself. However, you can also make a case from both of them, and that's why I'm trying to bring the concept more alive, because there are not a lot of specialists nowadays who are talking about this important issue. And honestly, you see, we live in an era, an informational society era. Like right now we are doing this interview on Zoom. I know we've been talking about this interview for a while, but it never happened it couldn't happen in person. So diplomacy, human rights evolve, so should we, and why not talk about diplomacy of human rights nowadays?
Okay, so it just takes me to another topic in terms of we have a pandemic and there is a lot of human rights violation going on underground in different countries for different minorities or different group of people. How can we address this issue from a diplomacy perspective, or how can people like you who are teaching diplomacy reach out to the community and teach them about it?
Definitely. Well, there's a smaller, bigger role depending on how you want to address it. And I think each role, no matter how big or no matter how small, can be very important in today's society. For example, myself, not being able to be physically present and doing trainings on that, I had to reinvent myself. And I recently opened my own channel where I post every Tuesday a video, an informational video about different issues in diplomacy and human rights. Because this question, you're not the first person who's asking me this question, I decided to actually do a video on that, which I published it last week on my YouTube channel. I invite you to subscribe to the channel, my channel, and there I'm talking exactly about the issues of human rights in times of pandemic, and whether I'm basically bringing an open discussion of whether our rights have been violated during these times of pandemic. And I'm providing with a very simple test in 3 steps that anyone can use to see whether their rights have been violated, because you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. You cannot talk broadly that everyone, all their rights have been violated. Of course, there are cases where you have like a mass action or a class action called in legal terminology. But yeah, so I'm bringing that up there, and I invite everyone to look on that. And besides that, what you can do, you should use your voice for that. You should raise awareness. A lot of people think, or friends, advocates think that you have to do a lot of things to be out there. You don't have to do a lot of things. You have to start small. For example, couple of years ago, I started small. I came from Europe, a beautiful country in Romania, and I was finding myself in New York State, in Buffalo, New York, where it's very cold. You don't have 6 months of the year you have
Uh-huh.
snow and very cold outside, but it's a beautiful city. And then I started communicating with the people in my community, and they, together with them, I started doing a movement. So starting small, from the mayor of Buffalo to the state senators to the county legislators, bringing it up to the governor of New York and to the president of the United States, we brought the message of we need human rights education. And that message was heard. And honestly, when I first started that, I I didn't even think that big. You
Mhm.
I know you are supposed to set like high goals. I didn't have that goal in my mind. What I knew is that I wanted to create a change, and I knew that change must come from you. So if I want to, I was a bit tired. Because my background in human rights law, and I have a law degree, I've been doing a lot of, you know, um, pointing fingers, how I like to call it, basically saying, what do you do? It's wrong in human rights. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And there are many organizations out there who actually still fight in that way for human rights. And at one point, I reflected upon that, and I decided, well, it's not actually that. You have to do something about that. So what's the solution? You can't just point fingers. And I found that human rights education is the solution for me. For somebody else, maybe something else, So that's what I do. I started small, and I didn't have the vision itself from the beginning, but that comes with time.
Mhm. So I have very important question here. As you came as an immigrant to the U.S. What message that you send to any young girls who is coming as an immigrant to the U.S. or anywhere and trying to find her way through the work of diplomacy, or she wanna grow her career passion in human rights?
Definitely, that's a very good question. Well, to try to answer that question, um, it's basically what I said previously. You have to start small. So I know you come with big dreams. It's the American dream. You come
Mhm.
to the United States, and now you are actually facing challenges because you have the disadvantage of being an immigrant. And that's in many places in the United States, you feel discriminated. So if you, for example, you don't come when you immigrate to United States, you don't come to a big city that has a lot of like international people, has it's used to cultural differences. You have some challenges. So you have to start first getting yourself known. So the first thing, you have to make yourself known. And how you do that? You attend different conferences, networking events, anything, like anything you can find on the internet. And there are so many resources out there, Eventbrite. I know during these times you can actually attend things, although you can do some meetings online, but these times will pass. And after that, you have to put out yourself there, because you're in a new city, you're in a new country, you're at the disadvantage that you are an immigrant. So you have to be yourself. You want me to tell you what I did?
Mhm.
So first, of course, I came to United States, and I was enrolled in my master's here, and I had the opportunity to,
Mhm.
talk with the students, with the professor. I was in an academic environment. However, I wasn't out there in the community where I wanted to be, so that I can work. And I can find jobs, and I can build a career. So what I did, I participated to a town hall meeting, if you're familiar with that.
Mhm.
So it was a
Yeah.
town hall meeting that the Erie County legislator in Buffalo, New York, was putting up for the community. And there you can find a lot of people who are working for a nonprofit organization, for local government officials, a lot diversity. Okay, all the people,
Oh.
good people in town, they go to town hall meeting. Why? Because they like to complain, or they like to tell their issues. Well, I wasn't there to complain, because I didn't have anything to complain, and I was new. I went there to make friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there and I introduced myself. I introduced myself to the legislator. I introduced myself to everyone, like, left, right, whoever sat next to me. And then soon everyone wanted to talk more with me, to find out who I am, what I want to do. And then I started being invited to their events. Then I started to do my own events. I invited them to my events. So that's how you start. You start small. You just put yourself out there, make yourself known, so that to build a career. If you're not known, a resume, today's world, it's not worth it. A resume is you, what you are worth. And honestly, a lot of employers, and even myself as an employer, I look around for talented people, even if they are immigrants. Doesn't matter where they are coming from, but I need to know that those people are worth it. And reading 1 page or 2 page resume is never gonna give me the whole idea about them. So and a lot of employers, they search their social media profile. So you have a LinkedIn profile, you should make sure you are a professional person on that LinkedIn profile. Put your work. That's why you can add videos, you can add media, you can add many things there. You have to make sure you have a professional image, So that would be my advice for new immigrants.
Okay, just a last word. How do you envision yourself or the diplomacy and human rights organization in the future?
So I have some plans. I'm not sure I can reveal all of them, but I can tell you this. When this all pass away, the U.S. Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights already has a basis of volunteers all across the world, and our focus is basically in few areas. So we focus on education, like providing research and studies and courses like the diplomatic protocol and etiquette. And at the same time, we are empowering women and girls. We work on issues like human rights education, human trafficking. We work on that. And also what we do, we work as a liaison with the diplomatic corps to make sure they are listened to, and we basically act between them and the government and the civil society. But yeah, I have some great things in store for that. In terms of the courses we are doing, we are going to do more of them. The next step will be to I'm trying to think if I should reveal it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next thing for that will be to offer advanced degrees on the institute. So whoever will do the courses right now on diplomatic protocol and etiquette will have a great future after that. And I'm already working for that, which I'm so close to it.
Okay, thank you, Isabelle. I would like to thank you a lot. Isabelle Vladoiu, she's the founder of Diplomacy and Human Rights. Please go and follow her page on Facebook and subscribe to her YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about diplomacy and advance your skills to find your career through your future career, if you are a student, if you are passionate about human rights and diplomacy, please go and follow her. I would like to thank all of you who are following us and who join us for today's show, and also subscribe to my channel. My name is Mary Apollo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much.
Okay.